Hey, beauties! Welcome to a Sacred Space podcast. I'm Katie, your host, and I am so excited to share with you how to create sacred space in order to heal and empower yourself. I want you to know that it is possible to live your dream life, to create amazing relationships, to experience joy daily, to be fully connected to yourself and passionate about life. No matter where you're at right now, it is possible to heal your trauma, your anxiety, and live a life beyond your wildest dreams. In this podcast, I will share with you the tools and resources I've used in order to create my dream life. And if it's possible for me, I know it is for you too. So let's get started. So today I am here with Regina McCarthy. She is the owner of Bluestone Healing Books and the author of Courageous Gilbert, the Groundhog. I have her book. It's absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited to talk to her today. So Regina, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your book and all of that good stuff.
Sure. And Katie, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Yay, me too.
So thanks. Yeah, I am a holistic psychotherapist. And so your listeners may know that I work with my clients in the body, emotion, the mental, and the spiritual sides. So I believe those all four are connected and need to be addressed, to do good healing work.
Yeah.
I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I got my undergraduate degree from Boston College and my master's from Loyola University in Chicago. And married, 3 adult children, a cat named Bob. And Courageous Gilbert is my first book.
Awesome. It's a great one too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I never thought I would write a book. It was not part of my plan, so to speak. And my husband used to say to me all the time, "Oh, honey, you've got a story in you. You've got a story in you." And I would think, what am I going to write about? I had no clue what he was talking about. And one night, I woke up in the middle of the night and there was this outline for a story. And so I grabbed my laptop and I ran down to my son's room, who was away at college, and I started writing. And I wrote all night long, just kind of had the outline of this, starting to gel more, this story about this little person. I didn't even know if it was a human or an animal, anything. And the next day, when I was making my tea in the morning, I looked out my kitchen window and there was this kind of furry animal walking in front of my house that I had never seen before. I've never seen since. And I said to my husband, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, that's a groundhog." I thought, okay, there's the major character for my book. A groundhog. And it turns out groundhogs are about digging for the truth, setting boundaries. And I was like, oh, perfect.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that he only showed up like that one time after you wrote the outline? I find that so amazing. Like he was meant to be the character,
Meant to be.
Yeah.
I totally believe in that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That is so wonderful.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the story, so for people that haven't read it yet, that they can just get an idea of what it's about.
Sure. So Gilbert is a shy groundhog. It's written for kindergarten through third grade, but I really say it's for children of all ages because these are kind of universal issues that he's dealing with. So he's a shy groundhog. He has trouble making friends. He does not like to read his book report in front of the class. He's got some stage fright going there, and he gets picked on by a bully. So one day he's had it with the bully, making fun of him, laughing at him. And he runs across the playground, climbs up a tree, and the tree starts talking. And he's like, "Are you for real?" And the tree's like, "Well, yeah, as real as you are." And they develop a friendship. And the tree really becomes his mentor. And I love that it's a tree because trees are grounded and they're connected to the heavens and they're solid. And, it's an old oak tree. So the tree first teaches him, okay, you need to calm yourself down. And here's one of the easiest ways to do it. And so he teaches him the 4-7-8 breathing for relaxation. And I don't know, had you heard of that breathing before you read the book?
Not that specific one. I've done plenty of breathing techniques, but not that one. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So I learned that from Dr. Andrew Weil, I don't know, 20 some years ago. It was in one of his books. And I just find it is so, you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you have a nice long exhale for 8 seconds. And it is one of the quickest ways to calm down your whole body. And it's one of the easiest things to teach. So I've been teaching it to preschoolers through adult people in rehab at the hospital. I mean, all ages can use this breathing technique.
Yeah, and my daughter and I really loved it. We use it. I think that specific technique really has like an effect on the nervous system. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, like other breathing techniques that because I learned breathing through yoga originally, so like the real deep belly breathing,
Right.
Which is obviously, you know, wonderful and has, you know, done wonders for my life. But that specific one, the 478, really has a very immediate noticeable impact on the central nervous system. So we loved it. It was great.
Good. And what I'm learning with the research I'm doing now is that it's that long exhale, that 8-second exhale that empties out our lungs of any carbon dioxide. You know, when I'm nervous, I'll shallow breathe. So it's that, and I may stop breathing altogether.
Right.
So I'm not getting any of that carbon dioxide out of my lungs. And that's what can make my brain foggy or mushy, or just I can't think. And it gets my whole body anxious then, because I haven't emptied out my lungs, and there's no room now for incoming air to come in.
Right.
So now I get caught up in this cycle where I'm just going to keep doing the shallow breathing, and it's like I don't catch up. So that long exhale really clears out my lungs, calms my central nervous system. My brain is saying, oh, you can breathe. You can get the oxygen in and out. There's room for more. It's okay. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, and maybe why that is because it's like sort of an act of letting go, you know, like maybe that's symbolic, but also physical representation of letting go.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, energy follows thought. So if you think something, you make it real. So our imagination is really powerful. And so I'll tell my clients, when you inhale, you can inhale love or light or whatever your spiritual connection is into your body. And when you exhale, you can visualize anything that doesn't serve you leaving your body.
Yeah.
And gone. Release it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's powerful. It really works.
Yeah. Yeah. So the tree teaches him the breathing, tells him to practice it. He goes and practices it, but he still's getting triggered. And so he's like, hey, I did what you said. You know, what's going on here? Which, you know, can be like the rest of us. We want that instant fix. And the tree teaches him, well, you know, you can't change anybody else. You can only change yourself. You know, you can only change how your body responds. So he teaches him, you've got these things in your body and they're called emotions. And the book goes into fear and sadness and anger. And he teaches him, you know, these are beautiful tools or beautiful gifts that you have. You need to first identify them and then express them. That releasing you were just talking about, give them a voice, get them out of your body. And you have to practice these things. You know, we think we can do it once or twice and then, you know, we should be really good at it.
Right.
And nothing, you know, when I read it to kids, I say, okay, well, what do you practice at? You know, is it kicking the soccer ball or playing the violin or reading or whatever? You know, it's that practice that makes things permanent. So he teaches them to practice getting the emotions out.
Yeah, and I love that part the best. I think that's like definitely been one of my biggest healing tools is I think I spent, and I think most of us do, most of my life repressing all of these emotions. And when I finally started honoring my emotions, giving them a voice and letting them move through me, then, you know, things in my life and my circumstances started to change. So it really is a powerful, powerful healing tool.
Yeah, and you know, I give my parents a lot of credit. They raised 10 children. Wow. And they raised them in the 60s and 70s. And they didn't have any coffee table books saying, be there for your children. Hold them close when they're upset or sad. You know, there weren't those parenting techniques of compassion and empathy.
Right.
Instead, it was, what are you crying about? I'll give you something to cry about. Or stop acting like a child. Don't make that noise. Go in the other room. And we got shamed out of feeling our emotions. And so giving ourselves permission to feel things and then express them, that's the way we're supposed to be. That's the healthy way.
Yeah.
But if we didn't learn it, we didn't learn it.
Yeah, and there just weren't those resources available, like you said, during my parents' time and before that, that just wasn't a prevalent thing.
No. It wasn't on anybody's radar. Oh, we need to do this for the kids.
Right.
For ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but luckily now we're all coming into awareness around that, and we're seeing how powerful, expressing our emotions and releasing them and identifying them and seeing the lessons, like what they're pointing to, what we need to look at in our lives, and using that and working with that. I think people are really beginning to heal from not just like trauma that they've experienced in their life, but generational trauma, because we're coming into that awareness of how important of a role our emotions play in our lives.
Absolutely. And that, that brings up an important idea, and that's that whole notion of what is trauma and what isn't trauma. That word, I don't think I ever heard it when I was a kid, except in relation to somebody being traumatized by an accident where they were in the accident.
Right.
And, trauma is a perfectly normal emotional response to a really terrible event. And that could be, seeing a car accident, certainly being in a car accident, but even seeing one. Natural disasters where you have floods or you have shootings or you have, shootings aren't the natural disasters, but, these huge disasters that happen to a lot of people, that's traumatizing to our bodies. But so is losing a job, having to move over and over and over. I had one child whose parent was in the military, and every school year she had to start at a new school.
Yeah.
That's traumatizing.
Yeah.
Someone in the family being chronically ill, having a severe addiction, those are all traumas.
Yeah.
And, our bodies have this great response of helping us deal with it, a beautiful response. And that's to shut down the thinking part of our brain and to go into the reptilian or the automatic part of our brain and go into that fight, flight, or that freeze mode.
Right.
And so those are great things. However, the younger we are when we have trauma and the fewer resources we have, or if we feel hopeless, overwhelmed, or trapped, these traumas can turn, or the traumatic response of the fight, flight, or freeze can turn into shock, where we go into those responses and we're not even in a traumatic situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's where.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that even just like the slightest change can cause you to go into shock as just like a natural response.
Exactly. Exactly. And then if I'm in that place, I'm not able to take care of myself.
Right.
If I'm in shock, I don't know how to do the breathing, because my rational, logical brain is turned off. And I'm either moving towards somebody because I'm really angry, or I'm running away from them. So that's that fight or flight, or I'm just going to freeze. I'm going to dissociate and I'm going to be a million miles away. And we see, people are in this all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I mean, even in my own life, I've experienced that over and over, and I've seen it happen in my family, and just really I don't know, everyone I know, I can tell that like there's trauma being held onto within themselves, and then anytime there's the slightest change, it brings up, they go into shock and they have those exact responses. So I see it all over the place, which is one of the reasons that I moved into the work that I do, because I see that it's such a prevalent thing. It's something that just seems to happen to all of us. Like we're all sort of in this space of just an automatic response of trauma.
Right. And the thing to also remember is that it is contagious. So if I go in, like on this call, if I go into shock, you could go into shock. Even we're not even looking at each other. You know, we're not even next to each other, but it is so contagious. And so you can have a classroom full of people, or a working environment full of people who, if, you know, one person, usually like the leader, the teacher, the manager, if they go into shock, everybody can feel it.
Right. Yeah, isn't that interesting how that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's really true, and I've noticed that, and I've heard that like science has broken that down based on something called mirror neurons, and when you're in an environment, especially as a child, you have these neurons in your brain that will mirror what's happening within your environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's also part of entrainment.
Mm-hmm.
Where we can all start moving at the same rate,
right,
as each other, you know, and we are energetic beings.
Right.
So yeah, if I'm nervous and anxious, and which is really important for our moms and kids, even, you know, when the baby's inside us, they pick up on our anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kids pick up on our anxiety.
Yes.
So it's important for all of us to learn somehow, whatever works for you. And if it's not the 4-7-8, find a way that helps you calm your system down. And what I think is fun, so the breathing, the 4-7-8, you take that 4-second inhale and a long exhale. You can get that by singing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're driving along, turn your radio up nice and loud and sing your heart out, or humming.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a cool thing. And there's something about the vibration of that humming in your head that has a healing effect. Laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Like laughter yoga is so much fun if you've ever done that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all getting that long exhale.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. It's wonderful. It's such a wonderful technique. I love it. And I know you kind of touched on this, but one of the things that I think is really important, like a really important point that you made, is about the practice making permanent. I have a teacher who says this all the time, and I would love for you to just expand on that, like how you can, because I think that it's such an important point.
Oh, absolutely. So anything that we want to get better at, we have to practice. Then I'll say to the students, I'm learning how to play ukulele, and I'm not very good. But the more I practice, the better I'm going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that practicing is also part of the universal law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm thinking about it, as I'm doing it, as I'm breathing it, as I'm in that energy, I'm getting better and better, and I'm attracting that to me.
Right.
And so if I practice, this is getting a little bit off, but if I practice negativity, that's going to become more permanent in me.
Right.
Versus if I practice positivity, that's going to become more permanent in me. So it's important what we practice, and that we do practice. We're not reaching for perfection.
Right.
We're reaching for something that is automatic, something that is comfortable in, like I said, in a positive way. So if it's that breathing technique, or if it's a response that I give to my kids, it's too easy to just snap at them, or if I'm tired, just like whatever.
Yeah.
But to practice being able to say to them, hey, you know what? I need a minute, and then I'll come and talk to you. Or I'll call you back when I finish what I'm doing here. So practicing putting myself first, practicing my timeouts for myself. Whatever I want to get better at, I need to practice.
Right. Yeah, and that 100% coincides with what we were talking about feeling and expressing our emotions, and how that's like an act of self-care, and really creating the time to practice going into our emotions. Because I think a lot of people get the idea that it's like, and I think you mentioned this earlier, that it's a couple of times you release some emotions and you think that it's like that you're good to go, but we're constantly going through things. And we have a lifetime of stuff built up a lot of the time. So we're constantly going to have to be making that a practice as an act of self-care in our lives, where we are looking at those emotions, honoring them, and having a way to release those every time they come up and every time we feel triggered by something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We need to daily, we have all kinds of daily rituals that we do, washing our face and brushing our teeth, breathing, meditating. And then why not having a daily, Dr. Andrew Weil says if you do his breathing 3 times a day, it builds up in your body and you don't go as high and you don't go as low as you might have gone in the past. So it's this great resource that we can create in our body. Why not do the same with our emotions?
Right.
And what I teach the kids, I'm not able to cry on demand. So getting that sadness out, that would be a little hard that way. But I teach the kids to have a big, heavy sigh, a really loud, full body. And so we lift our shoulders, we take an inhale, and then we just almost fall, not fall over to the ground, but bend forward with a really loud sigh.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of those, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
It really feels good.
Yes, it
So,
does.
to get that sadness out. And then if you're afraid and if you're angry, yell into your hands, yell into a pillow.
Yeah.
Just yell, out loud. I'll do it. I'm driving in the car.
Yeah.
Just have some great yells to get, because what happens, again, we're energetic beings. Our emotions are energy, because everything is energy. And if we don't get, like you said, if we don't get it out almost on a daily basis, it's building up. It's building up. And then, when we get triggered, boom.
We explode.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a great preventative tool.
Yes, I agree. And, like you were saying, how, we're energetic beings, and emotion is energy in motion. It's meant to be constantly moving. That's what emotion is. And so when we stifle it and when we shut it down, suddenly it's not in its natural state. And that's where stagnancy comes from. That's where we end up in these places of depression and that sort of thing, is because we've stuck something inside of us that was actually always meant to be in a moving state. Always.
Right. And Louise Hay would say that this causes dis-ease in our body, which is disease.
Yeah.
So there are no bad emotions, just if we don't express them, they can, literally physically cause us harm in our bodies.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's talk about courage and what that is, and just go into defining that, how we can get more of that.
Well, it's really a lot based on what you were just saying, is practicing getting these emotions out. Because, I was thinking when you were saying that about when they get stuck and then we get triggered. What is courage? Courage is doing something we're not comfortable doing.
Yes.
It's from the heart. We take that leap and we do something. And I'll say to the kids, when have you had to use your courage? And they'll say, jumping off the high dive. Or, that's when I have to use it too. Or certainly getting up in front of the class, doing that recital, or many things. And I'll say, and where do you notice that in your body? And they'll tell me, and then I'll ask, and how did you feel after you used your courage? And they're like, oh my gosh, so much better. So courage is that, I don't want to do this, but I know I'll feel better when I do it. And then certainly our bodies feel much more calm and relaxed after we've accomplished something that we weren't sure we could do. Yes,
absolutely. And I think that using your courage too is, it builds confidence. There's all of these sort of side effects from using our courage, and definitely like confidence and self-esteem and feeling more grounded and balanced in life in general are side effects of taking that brave step.
Absolutely. Every time you do something you weren't sure you could do, you feel better and more confident. And like you said, that self-esteem just grows.
Yeah.
I was doing some research about stress, and I learned a new term that I hadn't heard before called eustress. I think I'm saying that right, EUSTRESS. And that's the stress that's when you're looking forward to the first day on the new job that you're really excited about, or that first date with someone that you haven't met, that excited stress, that it's actually a good stress, and it's good to bring those into our lives. And so that's using that courage to try new things,
Right.
to put ourselves in new situations that are stretching us, because it's really good.
Yeah, and I like that they call it that, like, eustress, like that, like having that sort of higher vibrating stress that creates that excitement in our lives.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a great term. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. I'm going to use it too.
No. Yeah. Yeah, so like you said, practicing is so important, and practicing getting these emotions out, it becomes permanent then.
Right.
And then when we get triggered by something, and you're right, we have a whole lifetime of events that are inside of us, and we have these wonderful people in our lives who trigger us. And that's so that we can look at where we need to grow,
exactly,
where we need to do our work. And so practicing.
Yes. It's a wonderful process, and it's a wonderful journey. I think that so many times we just think that we want that quick fix, or if we do this, we'll finally get to a place of perfection, or we'll always be thinking positive thoughts, or affirmations will change our life, and that sort of thing. And it just doesn't work that way. Life is a journey, and we constantly have to be giving ourselves the tools that we need to grow and move forward and experience the life that we want. And also, have acceptance that part of life is experiencing sadness, anger, and fear. I mean, that's part of the human experience.
Oh, absolutely. And some of those so-called negative emotions get such a bad rap.
They do.
We would be in big trouble if we didn't have anger.
Right.
Because anger, and we had both talked about expressing things. It's not okay to vomit our anger on people,
right,
but to use our anger to say, you know what, that's not okay what you're doing, and set a boundary.
Right.
Because that's what anger is all about. Somebody's stepping on my boundaries, or pushing my boundaries, or I'm allowing them, and I'm not using my no, or I'm not using my yes where I want to say yes.
Right.
And so if I didn't have anger, then I would have no boundaries.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, anger is a great emotion. It's a very fiery emotion, so it can burn a lot of things off if we're willing to look at it and honor it, especially when someone has hurt us or betrayed us. And if we're willing to look at that anger and honor that anger, it can really help us move into because a lot of times what I've noticed with anger, outside of it being like pointing to a boundary that needs to be in place, is that when we're betrayed by someone and we feel anger, behind that anger is grief. But if we never look at the anger and we never honor the anger, the grief gets stuck. And then and so does the anger. And so we end up in a place where we can take that anger and then, use it negatively, like in attack on others and that sort of thing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. And so when we use that anger to our advantage, and we're willing to look at it and move through it, then we can get to the place where we can honor our grief, and we can cry, and we can let that out, and you can build closer relationships, not only with other people, but with yourself, when you're really willing to dig deep, and especially moving into grief, because I think a lot of people have a hard time getting to that place, because grief can be a really heavy emotion. It can be a really kind of scary thing to look at. And when we're willing to look at that grief and express it and move through it and share it with another person that we trust, it can create closer bonds, and it can really, help us grow as people. So
absolutely.
yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing. expressing our emotions and feeling into our emotions are beautiful. And that's why I really love your work, and I really love your book. It really has just been so much fun for me and my daughter to read it, and especially because we were moving and she had to go to a new school, and it was perfectly timed.
Of course.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So then tell me about how to find our own old oak tree that can give us that support and guidance.
So as we get to know ourselves better, as we begin to feel our emotions and express our emotions and trust our emotions, we start understanding who we are and what our needs are, what we need, what we don't need, what we want, what we don't want. And that's where I would say get to that place or work towards getting to that place, and then see how you resonate with someone else who could be a mentor, who could be a guide, who could, trust how your body responds to who you'd like to make your old oak tree, your wise old oak tree. Whether it's a trusted friend or colleague or therapist or family member, it has to be somebody who you trust with your, being vulnerable, with your emotions, with your life, with your heart. And I think most of us are pretty in tune with, oh boy, that person just kind of rubs me wrong.
Right.
I get kind of don't go to that person. Don't make them your tree.
Right.
So listen to your body wisdom. And then if you're looking for a therapist, Psychology Today is a great place to find a therapist, and ask them about their own healing journey, or ask them about, are they in therapy? Are they working on themselves? I think that's really important.
Yeah.
But and if you're looking for a friend or a colleague that you want to, talk with, make sure you resonate with them. Make sure your body and, your energies line up.
Yeah, I think having a support system is really important.
It's really important. That's what all the research today is showing. That is one of the factors that's helping kids heal from trauma and bounce back from trauma, is that somebody was there who listened to them, unconditionally and in a non-judgmental way. Someone was there with empathy and compassion. And it's amazing. That is what creates resilience in kids today. And that can help us be more resilient. So connection is really important. And I get it. It's hard. It can be scary to share my secrets, which is about shame. The things I'm not comfortable sharing, the things that I'm not comfortable about myself or my past. Find someone. It's really, really important.
It really is. It really is. I agree with that completely. And I think that I like that there's so much research showing how kids heal when they have a support system, somebody to listen to them. I know, like, for children, they're so much more open to that, typically, like open to sharing. And for adults, that's really hard. It's really hard, even when you get to a place where you're more comfortable with yourself, and like you said, you have your tools and you've been using them, and you've gotten to a place where you're starting to understand what you need. Even then, it can be really hard to open up and share things, share things that have triggered you, and share your vulnerabilities, because we, as adults, I think that we've a lot of times come to a place where we've been carrying that load of shame for so long. It's just what we're used to, and we're in that pattern. And so opening up and sharing with other people can be really hard.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure you've listened to Dr. Brene Brown and her TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Her research, and I quote this often, her research shows that our adult population is the most overweight, over-medicated, in debt, and addicted adult cohort ever, because we don't want to feel our emotions.
Right.
We'd rather do anything than feel our emotions.
Yeah, that's really true. That's very true.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting to a place, though, where most of us are understanding that it's a dead-end road, and that the only option we really have is to feel our emotions. Like, it gets to that place where if you take a look at your life and you're like, this is only option I've got now. I've
Yeah,
got everything
not
else that didn't
working.
work.
So you know it's a fun thing, Katie, that I love telling adults to do? Go to your bed, your couch, your whatever, and have a full body tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Lay on your stomach and pound your arms and pound your legs and let some noise come out of your mouth. Or lay on your back and do the same thing and just get it out.
Yeah.
You know, we hold our body so tight all day long. And, you know, sometimes we shame our kids out of, oh, stop that. You're not a child anymore. They're just releasing.
Yeah, that's really true.
And so do it as an adult. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
It is. And a lot of times we weren't able to do that as kids. I know that I got in a lot of trouble if I threw a tantrum as a child. So,
Right.
you know, being able to give yourself that freedom to do that as an adult, and especially if you're a parent, that frees you up to be able to give your child that freedom as well. So
do it with your child.
Yeah.
Do it with your child. Do it with your husband. Do it with all your kids. Do it with your do it with whomever. It's just because then you end up laughing afterwards, and it's so much fun.
Exactly, and it ends up being fun and a connective activity.
Right. Right.
Well, Regina, I loved this conversation. It was absolutely wonderful. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Gosh, if you want to get, 500,000 copies of Courageous Gilbert, you can certainly go to courageousgilbert.com, my website. You can purchase it there, and you can tell me if you'd like me to autograph it to someone in particular, and you can get it on Amazon. But I don't know who's buying that way, and I can't autograph it to someone. So, but it's available in both places.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will put the link below this video so that if you want to grab a copy of her book, which I highly, 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 highly recommend that you do, the links will be below this video. And what's you're on Instagram, right?
I am.
Yeah,
sort of.
Share your Instagram handle so if in case they want to follow you or check your Instagram page out.
Oh, you asked me a tough question. Okay, I'm in that over 50 age category. So let's see here.
I thought it was courageous.
Underscore Gilbert.
Yeah, courageous underscore Gilbert. And I'll put the link to that there as well. So make sure you follow her on Instagram and check out her book and grab a copy of that.
And I have a Facebook page too. I do a lot with my Facebook page, Courageous Gilbert.
Courageous Gilbert. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Well,
so there's a lot of information there for parents on parenting and all kinds of tips and some videos, and you can see me, and I talk about the book and trauma and all kinds of stuff. So
on your Facebook page?
Yep, on my Facebook
page.
page.
Okay, so that's kind of where you spend most of your time. I don't think I'm following you on that. I'm going to have to go ahead and follow you on that because I don't think I am. So I'll
you are.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Awesome. Yay! Well, this was such a great conversation, and I actually learned a lot today from you, Regina. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story about your book and all of your wonderful healing tips. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thanks again for having me on. It's always a delight, and it was fun talking with you, Katie. And gosh, I wish you all the best of luck in your new home, your new environment, your new state.
Thank you so much.
For free resources, ebooks, and other super awesome tools, go to my website, sacredspacewithkatie.com. I also want to remind you to subscribe so you always get the latest episode, and to leave a review so other people can find this podcast too. I super appreciate you tuning in today, and I will catch you in the next episode. Have a beautiful day.